Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the SLDC Board of Directors Special Board Meeting that's being held in a hybrid manner. We have some of our directors here in person. I appreciate you all bearing the brisk weather coming into the office today. And then some of those that were not so brave on Zoom. We appreciate you all joining as well. So I would like to call the meeting to order at 1:05 p.m. With a roll call vote. Roll call, please. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Director Arnold,
Present.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard,
Here.
Director Gilbert, well, we know she's present, but she is on mute. Director McBride, Director Spencer,
Present.
Alderwoman Saunier,
Present.
Director Reed,
Here.
and Chair Richardson.
Present. We have a quorum. Before we get started, I would like to welcome Alderwoman Alicia Saunier to the SLDC Board of Directors officially. We welcome you and look forward to your participation on the board. Alicia, do you have any words that you would like to say before we get started quickly?
I'm excited to get started. I'm honored to serve, and I look forward to the work we'll do together.
Awesome. Thank you. With that, we have the first resolution before us today, which is resolution number 24 SLDC 982, authorizing SLDC to execute grant agreements and disperse grants from the North St. Louis Small Business and Nonprofit Grant Program to eligible businesses and nonprofits, specifically for the operational expansion efforts component of the overall North St. Louis City grant program. As you all are aware, we had a brief pause in the program as we conducted an audit. Based on the audit findings, we do feel comfortable moving forward. Armanino's given us a clean bill of health, as I like to say, that we followed all federal guidelines, local ordinances, as well as our subrecipient agreement with the Community Development Administration. And so now we are moving forward with dispersing the first set of grants, moving them from conditional awards to approved funded award amounts. These businesses that we presented today have been fully vetted, not just by our consultant partners, but also internally by our SLDC compliance team. They also have been verified through our CBI clearance as well. So we feel confident that these businesses not only have a existence and presence in North St. Louis City, but also are in good standing with the city to date. So with that, I'll pass it over for the presentation from our Vice President of Programmatic Compliance, Ms. Lorna Alexander. Lorna?
Thank you. Good afternoon, directors. It's nice to see everyone in person. Last in-person meeting, I wasn't here, so I'm glad I got this opportunity. So as Chair Richardson so noted, this resolution 982, is requesting authorization to disperse funds to 25 businesses and nonprofits that received a conditional operational expansion award, and we're now asking for approval to disperse funds to them. In your board packet, and in front of you today, there is attachment A that I'm going to ask Elise to put up on the screen so we can go through the information in the packet. And hopefully this is how we will like to present to you approvals going forward. So what this spreadsheet is the spreadsheet from the transparency portal that has the list of all awardees for all awards they received from the various programs, the capacity building, the stabilization, operational expansion, and community enhancement. And with that list, I added columns next to their conditional award that says, that includes the status of the award. So today we're dealing with the operational expansion column and the status. I've indicated approved. As Neil said, these businesses have been vetted through their viability assessment visit, along with passing CBI clearance and getting cleared from the Collector of Revenue and the Licensed Collector's Office. And so highlighted on the sheet are the 25 operational expansion businesses and the amount of their award that we're asking approval for today. There is one capacity building business highlighted on the sheet as well. So depending on, well, we talked in the past about the method, how we came up with the amount of the award for the businesses under operational expansion. So if they have 1 to 5 employees, they receive $25,000, 6 to 10, 50, 11 to 20, 75, 21 to 100, 100, and over 100, 125. So indicated next to the business is the dollar amount of their award. And so I wanted to be clear that any awards over the 25,000, we've asked for and received payroll support to be able to verify that the businesses had, if they're in the 6 to 10 range, that they had payroll support to support, they had the equivalent of 6 to 10 full-time employees. And so we consider an employee full-time if they work approximately 2,000 hours a year. And so, as I said before, there are 25 businesses that are highlighted that we are requesting approval for. And in going forward, if we get approval today for these businesses, in the last column of the spreadsheet, there is a column for board approval. So today's date would go into that column that they were approved on this date for the award. And as we go forward, they'll stay there, and then we'll continue to add to the sheet updated with the award information. This is the sheet from the transparency portal. If we get approval today and going forward at each month's meeting, we will update the transparency portal with this information within 48 hours. So normally our meetings are on Thursday. So by the close of business that following Monday, we will update the transparency portal with your approval for the disbursement of the awards.
And so, Lorna, can you go into a little bit more detail as it relates to these 25 businesses, the viability assessment, the site visits, and other verification that was done to ensure these businesses or legitimate businesses been operating and also are located in North St. Louis?
Yes, so there is a survey that our partners use when they go out to visit the business that they have to complete, that they've witnessed operations at this business. They indicate to us whether or not it's a business the business location is commercial or whether it's home-based. Home-based businesses are allowed, but whatever you said your business product or service is, you would have to be able to support it if you're a home-based business. So they complete that survey. They take pictures for our file. We then review the files and determine that, yes, it appears to be a viable business and that they're vetted for to receive funding as a viable business. Now, you'll notice on the spreadsheet, the first 227 businesses were vetted by Grow America. Since there's been a lot of coverage in the media and concern about their reports and their vetting, we are having our partner Morgan Graves go back in and re-vet some of those businesses. So my compliance staff is reviewing those reports and about finished, almost complete reviewing those reports. And then ones that they feel still need some additional consideration before they could approve them, we're giving that list to Morgan Graves to go back out and do another site visit.
And can you confirm, so the applications and the viability assessments that are being done can be found on the transparency portal as well?
Yes, well, the forms themselves, the actual reports are here in our office, available upon request.
Okay. Any other questions from the board here about these grants? And anything about the eligible expenses you may want to go into a little bit more detail on, Lorna, for the operational expansion opposed to, because this is different than the real estate. These are not real estate.
No, these are
expenses.
for operational costs only. So our last presentation for the successful businesses was in September before our period of pause. At that time, we, depending on their application and how many employees they indicate they have from their application, they have a grant agreement to complete. There's about a half an hour presentation that we give, because as Neil said, unlike the smaller grants where for the $5,000, we ask for a budget on how you're going to spend the money. And so usually it's on personnel costs, sometimes it's supplies, has to equal $5,000. On the smaller grants, monitoring, compliance, we will select some of those grants. Those businesses go out to ensure that they have records to support that they spent the money, the $5,000 on eligible expenses. Same thing with stabilization. With the operational expansion grants, there's a reporting requirement. And so they, at the grant signing, complete a budget as well. But we give them more information on what's eligible, because now it's $25,000, and how they have to report those expenditures to us. So the September group, though we've paused now, so that date no longer matters, but say in August, when we first had about 25 folks sign grant agreements for expansion, their reporting period would be from August through December 31st. So as part of their grant agreement, they let us know when they expect or propose to expend the funds. If they expend all the funds by December 31st, they will get a report from us to complete, to let us know what their expenditures were on, and attach any invoices or payroll records that we can review and support that they were eligible expenditures. So there is a reporting requirement. As part of the grant agreement, the budget is included along with a timetable on when they expect to spend the funds. If they spend their 25,000, 50,000 in the first 6 months, it's a semi-annual reporting requirement. If they spend it in the first 6 months, they don't have to report anymore. But if it's going to go over a year or a year and a half, then they have to report annually to us on the amount of the expenditure, and support it with invoices, payroll records, so forth.
And Lorna, that's someone from your team that's reviewing the ongoing reporting, correct?
Yes. And then I wanted to add that also, as we meet on a monthly basis, this will be an ongoing resolution as we request approval for expenditure. And what we're also going to provide on the report, updated with any grants that have been rescinded up to that date. And so as we're going through the vetting process, some businesses will not pass and have not passed that process. We will update that information with you, the board, for the first time on December 19th. And then those rescissions will be updated in the transparency portal as well.
And Lorna, I think one of those areas of rescission is around CBI clearance and making sure that businesses can pass the CBI, ensuring that they're up to date with the collector of revenue and the license collector office. And can you talk about the process for communicating with the businesses once we get I guess, information back from those respective offices saying that they did not clear? What does that process look like for that business to clear it up before we decide to rescind that grant to move forward with offering other awards?
Mhm. So there are three main reasons why a grant may be rescinded. One, you didn't pass the viability assessment. The site visit showed that you didn't appear to be a viable business working out of North St. Louis. That's number one. Number two is that the activity that in your application is not an eligible activity as you've presented it to us, right? So when I say that we had businesses who applied for facade improvements, right? Well, once we did a viability assessment, we realized, hey, the site is your residence. And so residential development is not eligible under this grant program. So though you might be a viable business working out of that residence, the activity that you propose, facade improvement, is not an eligible activity. So your grant will be rescinded. And then lastly is whether or not you can receive clearance from the collector of revenue and the license collector office. So for, I don't know how many years it's been on the book in the charter for the city of St. Louis. Businesses that want to do business with the city of St. Louis have to have CBI clearance. They have to be current on and there's a CBI clearance form. They have to be current on their personal property tax and their earnings tax. On the collector of revenue side, on the license collector side, they have to have a current license. Check off those things, you're cleared to do business with the city of St. Louis. Of course, we all know with the media coverage, the businesses were reviewed by media and other folk to see if they were delinquent on real estate taxes. So since those reports have been out, SLDC has had many conversations with the comptroller's office, with the collector of revenue, with our oversight agency, CDA, to see which way was the best way to go with that, with the real estate tax delinquency. So it has been decided now that the city is going to require clearance for the business if it's not dealing with site improvement, just as it has in the past, that you have to be clear with your personal property tax current on your earnings tax, and have a current business license. If you're receiving a grant for us for property improvements, then you will have to be current on the real estate tax on that property. So if you're a business that has 5 properties, we're looking at the one address that we're providing funding for. And so we have to run that clearance because it has to be within 30 days for execution of your grant agreement. So we ran the clearance on these businesses here last week, along with some other businesses. Some of the businesses did not clear. They will get a letter tomorrow to say you have not cleared, and will indicate which office did not clear them. And then they'll have 30 days to bring their taxes current. If they can't show proof of that within 30 days, so the letter's going out December 6th, they've got to January 6th. If they can't show proof of that clearance to us, then their grant will be rescinded. And so we're in the final 2 years of having to expend the funds, and we just either gonna have to reallocate the money or, get folks to do what they have to do on that side to be eligible for the funding.
Thank you, Lorna, for that thorough overview. I want to recognize Alderwoman Clark Hubbard-Tan.
Thank you, Lorna. Thank you for all of your work on this, continued work on this.
You're welcome.
Your persistence and your diligence has really made the difference on making sure factual information is out and we are able to share, not just only directors, but in the community. And so I know you said one of the things that they might not have cleared would have been the taxes.
Mhm.
But are there any other things that these ones that are still just conditional, any other points that they might not have cleared? Not asking specifically anybody, but just for clarity, if there is another issue other than the taxes, do they still have the same 30 days to clear that up or not? And what is the process for those?
So I don't, so if you're, like I gave you the example of the facade improvement. So you're not allowed if you request a facade improvement on this building, or you owe taxes on this building, delinquent taxes. You can't change properties, right? So you can have 30 days to clear up the tax delinquency, but if it's facade improvement on the building, we're not going to allow you to select another building, a commercial site. This is your application, this is what you've applied for.
So those are so outside of the CBI clearance, which is the taxes that you identified, and then having a license, an up-to-date license, those are the two things that can be rectified really within that 30-day
Yes.
time period. But as it relates to the viability assessments, if a business is not deemed viable, they're just not deemed viable, and they can't really make adjustments to that. It's really about getting current on their financial obligations to the city.
And that will be reflected in a letter that will go out tomorrow as well, or just the people that can do the 30 days to?
The letter to rescind the grant awards for the operational expansion, those can go out tomorrow for those businesses that didn't pass the vetting process. For the community enhancement awards, they're still working through all of that. I think there are meetings coming up that they're gonna have one-on-ones with each of the successful conditional awardees. And then after that, if it's a rescission based on, again, their activity, or I don't want to go into Lance's area, but based on their activity or based on the dollar amount of the award that they received, that they no longer have a viable project, they needed $2 million and their award was only 500,000.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so they are conducting those final, on the community enhancement side, the strategic growth team is conducting that final assessment. And so they will be coming back on the regular scheduled board meeting, which is December the 19th, to bring forth some of those rescinded applications, as well as those who have been verified as moving forward and approved for funding. So on December 19th, you'll be able to have a deeper understanding of those rescissions and the decisions that were made. And then also on the operational expansion side, if there are rescinded applications or grant awards, we will bring those back before the board on December 19th. The reason why we didn't want to bring it today, we wanted to ensure that we communicated with the individual business prior to bringing it to a public meeting, having those conversations, helping them understand why those grant conditional awards were rescinded, having an official letter that was sent to them, and then bringing it to the board to share that information in more of a public setting, rather than having it being shared here at the board first and then communicating to that business where they could have felt blindsided or not having the opportunity to respond to some of the concerns that we had that was for the purpose of the rescission.
Okay.
So again, I think we have the 25 business. Go ahead. Alderwoman Sanye.
I have a few questions, and it might be because I'm a little bit newer. I think it's good just on the record. Can you let us know a little bit more detail about what CDI clearance is and what that involves?
Currently, it involves two sides. The collector of revenue has one side and the license collector office has the other side. On the license collector's office side, whether or not you have a current license. If you do, they approve you, they sign off on the form. It's one form with two sides. On the collector of revenue side, there's earnings tax that they'll check to see for 4 quarters to see, and if they check one and say delinquent, then they'll reject it. They call it a rejection. And then there's a box for personal property tax that they'll either approve or reject the clearance, and we get the form back.
You know, it's the expectation for the collector revenues office to give the sign up. Is the expectation that the business is completely caught up on taxes, or did they get opportunities to, did they just have to show that they were in the works to become compliant?
So we have asked that question, and we have asked our Business Assistance Center manager to dive into that a little further. She said her understanding is that they have to be current. It's a question for the collector of revenue, whether or not they enter into payment plans with folks, what those payment plans look like, if they're eligible. But we do know that 1 month we might get a clearance on someone, but we didn't move the grant for whatever reason, and we go back the next month and now they're not cleared. We don't ask specifics of it, because we're not a city department. We're just doing our due diligence and ensuring we get clearance from these departments.
perhaps by our 19th meeting, that office can just get us an answer, and I would be an advocate for giving them the opportunity to show that they're in the process of becoming compliant. I know, in some legislation I got to work on with SLDC for developers, we don't just say, you can't get incentives if you're not current. We give them the opportunity to do payment plans, but I know this is a newer program, so their office may need time to be able to stand it up for businesses, but I would love for him to let us know clearly how he went about that so that we can flag it. And then for conditional approvals, can you give us a little bit more detail?
Mike, go ahead.
Sorry.
Give me a chance to talk. Go ahead, I'm just
Sorry.
joking.
I just wanted a little bit more detail specifically for members who are watching at home. Conditional approvals were given for folks for operational expansion award status. Could you just give us a little bit more detail about what that's about and what that conditional approval is contingent upon?
Yes, so the conditional awards that were approved by the board in June, the latter part of June at our June meeting, they were awards that on paper, the review of the applications that the businesses declared on their declaration, I'm declaring that I'm applying for either stabilization or one of the competitive grants. They've declared that they have a budget in their application for it, and they've scored. They met the scoring threshold, so there are scoring thresholds for all the programs. So for the operational expansion awards, and the rating sheet is on our transparency portal. So for the operational expansion awards, you could get 75 points. Most of them, the points coming from the location of your business, right? It's geographical points. But you could get 75 points. 40 was the threshold. So any business that scored 40 and above were then considered a successful applicant for operational expansion. But they might not at that time have finished their vetting for the viability site visit or the CBI clearance. And because the program was so long in the making and the businesses had been waiting for so long, we posted the conditional awards with the understanding that as we come back here, you will not be awarded the funds until we can finish the vetting of your business that is viable and that we do have a clear CBI on you.
Okay, and just for clarity, 2,000 hours per year, if there's about 52 weeks in a year, we're basically saying 38 hours per week for full-time status?
So really it's 2,080, that's 40 hours a week, but businesses, you can be considered a full-time employee, I think from 35, it depends on the business. So like from 35 to 40 hours a
That's
week,
minimum
yeah.
32 before.
Mhm.
Okay. And then sorry, I only have two more questions. I think Mr. Richardson mentioned that the partner you mentioned that Morgan Groves is gonna go back and verify the places that Grow America initially.
Some of them,
But that's not complete yet.
no.
And is that part of why there's some of these conditional?
Yes, especially in the up top with the lower license numbers. If you look to the right, under the viability assessment performed by who, the GA is Grow America, right? So those are the ones that my team is looking at for credibility. And if they think there's more follow-up, then they're going to be given to Morgan Graves to go out and revisit.
And are you wanting us to still approve those that still have not been fully completed?
No. Everyone who's highlighted in yellow, the 25 have been vetted, have been visited. Their report has been reviewed and approved by my team.
And those who are still waiting vetting, do you have a date of anticipation when you think you might be done? Like, will it be by our 15th meeting, or do you have a date in mind where you want to be able to let everybody know yes or no?
So we're creating the list will be Morgan Graves' 6th list. It's going to be about 100 businesses, not just operational expansion, but some of the others as well. And her team is usually able to do about 40 assessments a week. So we're hoping that we will have some of those reports back by the June 19th visit too. So we'll run the CBI clearance on the folk. And if they pass that and we get their report back and they're viable, will be included in the list for whom we ask approval to disperse the funds to them.
Okay, excellent. Very last question. And I think Director Richardson already hinted at it. I just would like more detail on what are eligible expenses for this.
So for the grant funding, So for operational expansion, which the ones we're talking about here, you cannot use them for construction. So the eligible expenses as laid out in the final rule of the regulation, because these are disproportionately impacted business based on the fact that they're in census tracts, what they're called, CUD calls qualified census tracts. They have more opportunities to use the grant than folks normally do for COVID-19. Most of the time, you can get a grant for COVID-19 if to mitigate a hardship you suffered, right? They absolutely can use the grant funds for that, but they also have the opportunity because of the years disinvestment with small brown and black businesses and qualified census tracts. They have the opportunity to use the grant for expansion or enhancement, that construction. So you could, with the expansion funds, you can hire new people. You can give yourself a raise. You can give your employees a raise. You can give your employees benefits for the first time. You can enhance their benefits. You can buy more supplies, inventory, equipment. There's a long list of what they call enumerated uses that you can use. The ones you can't use is for bad debt, and things of that sort. So, yeah.
And I think that's one thing to note, because we did have a conversation with CDA, with the license collector of revenue, and other parties around leveraging these funds to pay off maybe past due taxes to the city, but we have received confirmation that that's not an eligible expense to pay off like past due real estate taxes or personal property taxes. That is not an eligible use, unfortunately, but we definitely explored that to provide some coverage for the businesses, but unfortunately, that was deemed an ineligible use.
For businesses, it is an
Businesses.
eligible use because the city has a program that with the collector of revenue, if you're a resident and that's your primary residence, and it's about to go into foreclosure because of delinquent taxes, the city does have a program funded with the ARPA funds that they could use a certain amount for that. And it's spelled out in the final rule as well, but not for businesses.
Thank you so much. That
You're
completes my question.
Director Orno, did she take all your questions?
Yes,
Okay.
all of them.
All right. So Director McBride, I see your hand, sir.
Thank you. Director Spencer, your hand was up first.
I'll yield to you.
Very good.
All right,
Hey,
Director Spencer, it's hard to see you.
just had a few questions about some of these. From my view of the Exhibit A, it seems like some entities are getting funding that is not in one of these multiples of 25. For instance, as I look at Clark Construction, which I think is one of our highlighted, it has a $5,000 amount.
So Clark Construction is the one, so there's 25 businesses that are highlighted that are getting expansion funds. Clark is the one that's getting capacity building. And so
okay.
they're on the list because we were updating it and wanted to provide that information to you. Some of the other businesses are getting their 25,000 or whatever the dollar amount is. Plus they also completed the capacity building part as well. So instead of a $25,000 award, you might see 30. There's
Okay,
five.
so it'd be
Yeah.
Ari's and Swim Ministries. I'm showing at 30.
Yeah, and you
So
will
that
see.
would be the capacity. Okay, gotcha. And from my count, it looked like there might be 26. I'm not gonna
Yes,
stand
it's
by that.
26.
Okay,
And subtracting the one who was capacity only, Clark Construction.
gotcha. Okay, I want to make sure I was reading this correctly. And I think that's so the number of employees, what's the cutoff date for the number of employees for this program?
It's the number of full-time equivalent employees you had as of December 31st, 2023.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate the hard work that you've gone and done in this. And Uh, and it sounds like we're on the right track here.
Yep, it feels good.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Director Spencer.
Thank you. I'll echo the appreciation for the enhanced transparency around all these grants, and you guys are living these every day, and we're seeing this, maybe a month, once or twice a month. So I've just got a point of clarity. I think it would help not only myself, but the other board members and maybe members of the public. But on the capacity building award and the stabilization award, those smaller awards have already met all of our compliance requirements, and those grants are moving forward with distribution and delivery. And then the operational expansion grants are the ones that will have continued compliance, and that will be followed up with all the background information and the fiscal review necessary to meet the criteria and to meet the compliance for those grants. Is that accurate?
So the capacity building grants, they will go on for the next year or so. They do have to be vetted, right? And so the vetting took place initially, as we know, by Grow America for the first 227 applications. And then as we did the conditional awards, we start giving groups of businesses to be vetted to Morgan Graves. We started with the community enhancement grants. Those were the larger ones. And then we went to the operational stabilization, community enhancement, operational expansion, right? And so the capacity building people, once they complete the awardees, once they have until the December, well, probably October 26th to complete the 2 exercises. So we'll see them continually. The
Okay.
stabilization folks, they've been vetted, or they've had their viability assessment performed. And we funded quite a few of them. I think initially there were maybe 100 that were eligible who declared they wanted the stabilization award. And we probably have 25, 30 that have not passed CBI clearance since June. So what we're gonna do with them is we're gonna run it one more time and then put them on the 30-day timeline. You've got 30 days to clear up whatever your issues are, or then the award would be rescinded and go back into the pot.
Thank you for that clarity. And I'm big on the compliance, and I want to make sure that we meet all the requirements for this type of funding, and I think we're on the right track. But I also want to talk a little bit about the outcomes and the outputs, and I know a lot of that will be reported towards the end of this funding cycle in 2026 or 2027. Based on your vetting process, do you feel like these small businesses are being educated about how to properly operate in the city of St. Louis? And do you feel like there's that beneficial outcome of them feeling like they're a part of the system, they're understanding that they're being seen, and that they're getting these opportunities to grow and stabilize their businesses? Because I get the sense that that's happening.
Well, before we do have grant signing sessions. And on that session, we give a presentation, and we talk about what the funds make the best use for them. If it's to get, it's easy to give yourself a raise, but if additional inventory or better equipment is going to help stabilize or grow your business, and that's what you should do with the funds.
I look forward to hearing more of those stories, as the funding continues to be released, and thank you for all your work.
Thank you, sir.
But I think just to respond to an additional question, I think you had, Director Spencer, is there is still ongoing reporting for the stabilization dollars?
Yeah.
Too, Lorna?
No.
No, okay. So I just wanted to confirm that is the point, is that they are able to provide that one-time kind of support around, this is what they're using the funds for, this is how they plan to use it because of the dollar amount. It isn't the requirement of having that semi-annual $25,000 kind of an above operational expansion. That is the ongoing reporting requirement there.
Correct. So with the stabilization dollars, we will go out, we will select maybe 10% of the businesses that were awarded funds and go out and look at their records to ensure that they spent the money on eligible expenses.
Okay. So again, I just wanted to make sure that we're being as transparent as possible with the public around how we are addressing, making selections, and also managing the vetting as well as the ongoing reporting. But we look forward to hopefully getting some of these projects closed out. Because I know you've been extremely busy, and your team, Lorna, on managing this as well as other members of SODC staff. Any other questions from the directors? Points of clarification? I don't see any hands. So again, we have these 26 businesses that our consultants, our staff, the collective revenue license collector office have fully vetted and feel comfortable moving forward with. So with that, I would like to first Director Gilbert, we did not get your presence confirmed. I think you were still on mute. Can you confirm your presence just for
Yes,
the purpose?
I'm off. I'm off now. I am here. I have
Okay.
been here.
Okay, great. Thank you. I just wanted to confirm for the record that you were present for the discussion. Thank you so much. Okay,
Thank you.
with that, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve resolution number 24 SODC 982.
So move, McBride.
Second, Spencer.
With a motion and a second, can I have a roll call vote, please?
Director Arnold,
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard,
Recuse.
Director Gilbert,
Aye.
Director McBride,
Aye.
Director Spencer,
Aye.
Alderwoman Sonier,
Aye.
Director Reed,
Aye.
and Chair Richardson.
Aye. With the majority present voting aye, the motion passes to approve resolution number 24 SODC 982. Again, Lorna, thank you for taking 45 minutes to get us an update on the program, and I expect the even more thorough update, if that's even possible, at the next board meeting, December 19th. The only item that we had today on the director's report corporate agenda is a reminder for the SODC evening holiday party that will be held on December 13th at 5 p.m. So I look forward to seeing you all there as the directors, as well as members of my public officials and also our community partners to celebrate all of the great success that we've had over the last year at SODC. And thank you all again for the great work. The next regular scheduled board meeting will be held in person on Thursday, December 19th, 2024. It will be a pretty busy agenda as we will have closing out for the year some of our operational matters around receiving funds and spending funds as it relates to the end of the calendar year. So look forward to another exciting, action-packed SODC Board of Directors meeting on December 19th. So with that, I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for joining today on this special board meeting and getting these businesses funded. Have a good day.